Yeah, because usually, okay, there it is. All right, I think we're live. All right, it's 3 o'clock on Thursday, January 7th. This is the Public Safety Committee, the first meeting of 2021. Welcome. Now we have a couple of new members. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. And the first order of business for this meeting will be the election of a chair and vice chair. I'll go ahead and entertain any motions for the office of chair. Are there any nominations? Yes, Councilmember Pound?
I'll nominate Randy Bell.
Okay, there's a nomination for Councilmember Bell. Any other nominations? There being none, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor of Councilmember Bell as Chair of Public Safety signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Motion moves forward. I will hand it over to you, Chair Bell, for the nominations for the office of Vice Chair.
Okay, so we'll now entertain nominations for Vice Chair. Do I hear any nomination? Not hearing any, I'll nominate Philip Pounds. Any other nominations?
We need a second to that nomination.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to the next item. The next item is approval of the previous month's minutes from November 9th, 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve November 9th meeting minutes.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 4, we had no citizens' comments for this meeting, either in writing or people signing up to attend the meeting. So we'll move on to old business. Under item 5, item A, update on the pedestrian crosswalks between 41st and 57th Avenue.
I can give an update if I may.
Yes, please.
Okay. We have been working on this for several months now. Not only the installation of new crosswalks along this stretch of road on Palm Boulevard between 41st and 57th, but also some improvements for visibility on our existing crosswalks. And I'll let Chief Cornett talk about those efforts. I'll go ahead and give you an update on the installation of the new crosswalks. As you all know, the city has been working with Santa and the Walden's Resort on the approval with SCDOT, the approval of new installation of new crosswalks along this stretch. There are 5 that have been permitted by DOT. We submitted the encroachment permit. They've been reviewed, they've been approved by the agency, and all those construction and design documents have been finalized. We are working with the Walden's Resort on the construction of these. They have gracefully, and we're so grateful for their offer to cover the cost of the construction of these crosswalks. We're obviously, Walden's Resort is a huge stakeholder and a huge partner with the city, and we're so happy to work with them on this initiative. Certainly, we have concerns about the amount of traffic that is going to be moved towards the end of Palm Boulevard with the opening of the new resort and the consolidation of the resort access to the 57th Avenue entrance. So this is a great example of a partnership between the city and the Walden's Resort, and we're excited to see this through. I've spoken with Mike Mansinger, who is the project manager for the new resort, and our goal is to have these completed by the end of March, which is consistent with their expected completion and opening of the hotel end of March, early April. So we'll be updating council on this progress and certainly working with them and our police department for a successful implementation.
Thank you, Desiree. Item B, update on Front Beach loading zones and parking.
Chair?
Yes, please.
I think Chief Cornett had some information about our current efforts related to our existing crosswalks and pedestrian safety.
Oh, okay, please. Chief, you're on mute. Thank you.
As some of you that are returning and are aware, and I think Mr. Bell, you probably heard of it, Councilman Bell, that we were looking at the rapid rectangular flashing beacon, which would be a different version of a light at a crosswalk, really geared towards taking more of an effort to notify drivers that you're coming into an area that you need to use caution. And so we've kind of explored that. And what I've done is I have a video that I can email to you all that covers what these are and how they look. It gives a nighttime video and a daytime video. That way you can see. And it also has in the video where you can press a button. Some of them can be activated by pressing a button. And obviously that would be a little more expensive. But the downside per SCDOT with these are that the lights are very bright, and that when they're in residential areas, SCDOT has heard of complaints from residents because of the bright light. The other cost, or the other thing, is the cost. It's $10,000 to $15,000 per crosswalk to get them put in. And so really what it is I'll send you the video, and that way you can kind of see what we're looking at. If we did proceed with it, I think we've discussed in the past that the best place for it, because of the flashing lights, would be the crosswalk over there by Bilo around 21st Avenue. Big area we're concerned about for traffic or pedestrian traffic crossing the road, where it's 4 lanes coming across as opposed to 2 lanes on Palm Boulevard in other areas.
Great.
If I may, Councilmember Bell, are you able to show the video? Is that something we could do? Do you have it accessible that we could share it from your screen?
You just the big technology question.
Live TV, Chief. Live TV, man. You got
it. Okay.
It's okay.
I don't know how to do that.
But that's okay.
We'll do the email.
We can share with you.
But I will send it to everybody now. Thank you.
No, that's fine. No, thank you for the update. Boy, that if we could minimally do that one crosswalk there, that'd be fantastic.
And it does have that function to press the button. And I think that would be one thing that would alleviate the concern about the flashing during nighttime hours, because you have limited pedestrian traffic during those hours. So if we were to put the one that's activated by the button, it would reduce the impact on those that live in the area at night. But that's going to be a little more expensive than the $10,000.
Just out of curiosity, if there is an answer, how long does the light remain on?
I'm not sure exactly on that one. And we're still in the beginning phases with this. Once council determines that we want to move forward with these, we still have to ask permission from Federal Highway Safety, then from SCDOT with a encroachment permit. And then they have to, since we're using a crosswalk that's already there, it's a little bit faster for them. But SCDOT has really said that they really try to avoid these lights because of the brightness and the impact on a residential area. However, many municipalities in the area have these in their business districts and things like that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, now moving on to item B under 5, update on Front Beach loading zones and parking.
I think that's me as well.
Yep.
And we were approved to do this in the last Ways and Means. So we're reaching out to our company to get them out there to make sure that they can still do it for that amount that they quoted us. They originally said they could do it for $3,000 if it was done in 2020 before December. But time kind of caught up with us. So I think we're still be able to work something out with them and get that done. And we are looking at our signs. The signs will read loading. I'm sorry. You have to excuse my brain's a little slow. I just had my COVID shot. I'm blaming it on that. It's going to say loading zone only between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. And essentially what that will do is after 2 p.m., that will open those up to parking spots that the visitors for the businesses can park in and kind of go from there. And we don't have to change any ordinance because it will still designate on the sign that is a loading zone only between those hours. And so we've established about 5 signs will cover that. And we've reached out to the company that gave us the quote for $3,000 to see if he's still willing to do that. And we're waiting to hear back from him. But we're already working on the mock-up of the signs and everything as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, under new business, consideration of purchase of 2 Dodge Durango all-wheel drive V6 Pursuit SUVs for the police department in the amount of $30,540 each, fiscal 21 budget. And I'm assuming all these items are just items that we had planned for and are in the budget.
That is correct, yes.
We need-
And
Go ahead, please, Desiree.
you would like to get a recommendation from the committee so that this can be presented to Ways and Means at the end of the month for approval. But yes, these are budgeted. I know that Chief Cornett, if you don't mind sharing some information about the state contract pricing and the kind of equipment and vehicle that you're recommending that we purchase, which is different from what we've been purchasing in the last few years.
Certainly. So in the past, we've been purchasing the Ford SUVs and the Ford sedans, and the goal has been to move away from the sedans and move to the SUVs. The sedans are still, or the SUVs are still on state contract. However, what we've run into is we know that at every 5 years, these Ford SUVs are costing us thousands of dollars for upkeep. As a matter of fact, I was just advised this week that I have one that is completely down and is going to cost $7,000 to replace the motor. And that's just the motor. That's not putting it in or any of the belts or any of those things. So we're actually down a vehicle with that. That does not include these two. These two would still be replacing others. So that's something that I would bring up later on. But that's why we want to try this Durango as opposed to the Ford SUV that we were using. I used a Durango at my previous department. It was very reliable. I loved it. I know we've had them in the past here on Isle of Palms. And I will say that Dodge has done a good job at changing the Durango and making it more law enforcement friendly. And it is all-wheel drive, so it will work in our environment and do just what we need it to do. So that's why we're moving forward with these. The benefit to that is that it's cheaper. And so including marking the vehicle and putting all of the emergency equipment into it, we will still come several $1,000s under budget what was budgeted for.
Cheaper and better is always good. So we need motion, correct, Desiree? Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of the 2 Dodge Durango vehicles per the chief's description.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in
Is
favor?
that motion to approve or recommend to Ways and Means for approval?
I believe it's to recommend to Ways and Means, correct, Desiree?
Yeah, so it's a recommendation to approve that would go to Ways and Means.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item is highlights of departmental reports. We will first hear item A from the Fire Department Battalion Chief Hathaway.
Hey, good afternoon. So if you have your reports in front of you, we had a total of 87 calls in December. 5 of those fire-related, 40 EMS calls, 1 rescue, 3 hazmat, 5 service, and 33 other. That 87 calls is almost 43% more than December of the previous year at 61. However, our total year-to-date calls was less by almost 14%, coming at 928 versus the 1,078 the previous year.
Hey, sorry, real quick. I don't have a copy of these. Were they provided separate email? Sorry.
I have them. I can send them over right now.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no,
Nope.
I didn't have it as of yet either.
I shouldn't have assumed that you guys already had that.
It's all right. Keep going. Sorry.
I'm spouting numbers and you're probably thinking.
I'm listening. Oh, I was
This
listening
guy's out of
intently.
the-
Come on now.
So, well, just so you know, it's beautifully colorful report. So put together so well. As for notable events, I would say that we continue to monitor COVID as we've been doing since the beginning of the pandemic, maintaining our supplies and making sure that we have everything that we need for our personnel. I would also just like to add that we've also maintained putting out the information regarding the vaccination rollout, which is the 1A. We do have some individuals that have already partaken in that and others that are scheduled. So that's moving on as we go now.
A
this
question,
month-
Matt, do we have a completion date for all of our 1A personnel?
The only
For the-
thing that I'm aware of, which I had received from the administration, was that it has to be scheduled before it's the 15th. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. The governor has issued an order asking every eligible public official or first responder, anybody under phase 1A, to be either scheduled by the 15th to receive the first shot or have received the first shot. If not, they are not. They're going to go back to the back of the line and lose their privilege, if you will, for the shot. So it's every employee, every first responder has received the information on how to register. It's fairly easy. I know that we've had a number of our personnel already given a shot. And we continue to encourage everyone to sign up and get the shot. However, it's a choice by the employee to get the vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, I know for myself, I'd appreciate updates on that. And I know due to HIPAA rules, we can't disclose the who's of it, but the percentages of folks participating would be useful information, I think, for the public.
Absolutely. Well, by the 15th, we'll be able to provide at least a number from each department of how many have received it.
Thank you.
So for the month of December, we did our annual physicals. Typically, we do that earlier in the year, but because of COVID, all of that kind of got shifted and moved for the availability. In the way of calls, on the 4th, we had a report of a water leak. It was a burst pipe inside of a home. We were able to cut that water off for the individual. It was on Hartnett Boulevard. On the 6th, responded to the beach at Ocean Point in reference to a piece of floating dock that washed ashore. We were able to remove and dispose of that piece of dock. Safe Industries on December 9th picked up the old ladder 1001, which was the 2004 75-foot aerial ladder, and that became a trade-in, went to a different department. On the 9th, Fire Marshal Stafford successfully completed his applied drone technology course that he took through Clemson University in order to be able to pilot a drone. On the 10th, a retirement parade was held for Chief Graham at the Public Safety Building, which we had an amazing turnout. Most all of you were there as well, and we're really happy to see that. On the 13th, Battalion Chief Eagle, Captain Hall, Engineers Burnett, Fassos, Hayward, Rourke, and Rouse, as well as firefighters Hermosillo, Marlowe, and Sorger, participated in a birthday parade on Wills Way for a 2-year-old island resident. On the 21st, we received a phone call from a resident on Waterway Boulevard who reported a small fire on their back porch that was as a result of discarded smoldering embers from the fireplace. The fire had already been extinguished prior to our arrival, but there was a little bit of damage to the home itself. We did check for any kind of fire extension. None was found, and we were able to secure all that for them. On the 27th, the year 2020 decided to go out with a bang, and we responded to a structure fire on Seagrass Lane. It was started what appeared to be a chimney, but when we got into it, noticed that we had a lot of fire in the attic. The guys did a really great job of confining and containing it to the area of origin, and put that out, minimize as much damage as possible. And there was no injuries or anything to report there. And on the 31st, as you guys know, Chief Graham retired after 35 years of service, and we're sad to see her go. When you get the report, you will see that the remainder of it just has a lot more analytics. Feel free to browse through that as you like, just breaking down the calls by various ways. So feel free to contact me anytime if you have any questions about any of the analytics that are there or desire to know more.
Thank you.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Chief Cornett?
All right. So I'm going to start with some good news because we all like good news, and it's 2021. It's supposed to be good. So the police department applied for a grant back in October, and we were told last week, I believe it was, that we were awarded that grant. And Ms. Fregoso has the paperwork in his going to get everything signed, but the grant is for over $70,000 that goes toward a vehicle for beach patrol, a trailer to pull those beach patrol vehicles, because right now we have to pay somebody to do it, and towards a mobile digital billboard sign that we could put out there, along with $20,000 worth of overtime money for patrolling the beach during the COVID response. So that's the great news.
That's great news.
Hey, Chief,
And
where's the grant from? Who's the grant?
It is from SCDPS, South Carolina Department of Public Safety, hosted it. It is a COVID-related grant, and these were the Polaris that we will be getting will be used for the crowds on the beach to make sure that we monitor those crowds and enforce the social distancing on the beach per the governor's orders and per our emergency ordinance here on the island. And the trailer obviously is an asset to be able to move those when we need to. And the digital billboard sign will give us the ability, like we used over the summer last year, to do those things and to give other alerts to people that are visiting that are just to remind them to wear a mask or to distance and things like that.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. As far as the COVID-19 vaccine, we are rolling our folks through it. The ones that want to participate in it are getting the vaccines. I can tell you this week alone, 7 members of the police department, including all command staff personnel, have received the first shot. And I rounded the command staff out this afternoon before this meeting. And as I already mentioned, the only other thing I wanted to mention, or 2 other things, but one, there's a patrol vehicle that went down this week. It's a non-budgeted expense, but that was something we might have to visit again later on, because I don't know that it's worth investing the money, because we're going to look at $7,000 for a motor and then several $1,000s to install that motor into a vehicle that is already over 5 years old. And the difficulty is that this was not one that was set to be replaced this year. It would have been on next year's replacement schedule. But we were already in a deficit with patrol vehicles when I started. 2 that were wrecked were not replaced. And so it's putting us into a difficult spot when we fill our positions to make sure that we have enough vehicles for everybody. But it'll be something I think we can come back and have another conversation about it at another time, just giving everybody a heads up at this time.
I'm relatively certain, though, that looking at $10,000 on a 5-year-old vehicle is probably not a great plan.
I don't intend to spend that kind of money on it.
Yeah.
The other thing before we get into our stats would be, I just want to make sure everybody is aware, CITO is working in Wild Dunes to remove a boat. Over the weekend, a boat struck ground and sank essentially, and our officers responded. Unfortunately, they helped as much as they could from the beach, but we were able to eventually get everybody off the boat, and the insurance company has hired CITO to go out and pull that thing in. They've been working on it all week, and it has been a very slow process, but they are on the beach, and the law enforcement personnel have been escorting them out on the beach. So that if you see that is authorized. They're trying to get that boat out of the water to reduce the hazard that it's causing.
No spillage, Chief?
No, sir, not to our knowledge. They had a crew come out and check all of that and secure anything that was a concern that night or over the weekend. And then CITO has been out here every day since then, trying to work on it. Unfortunately, they were just, I think it was dug in a little bit deeper than they expected. And as they were trying to pull it in, they were breaking a lot of their ropes. But they have revisited today with some bigger equipment and brought some stuff that looks like stuff we would have got off of the surplus program. But I don't know where they got it. It looks cool, though. And then getting into our stats, Councilman Pounds asked for us to put a comparison on these. And so you should see that on this form where we are comparing both the monthly and year-to-date stats to the previous year. And with that, you're welcome. You'll see calls for service for December were 830, and for the total year of 2020 was 16,869, which is actually about almost half of what we had last year. So it's a reduction, about 50% reduction. That's not correct math, but it's close. I went to Lower Richland. Incident reports, you can see that we had 62 for the month and 1,043, and that's about average with what we had last year. And then you can see charges We had 71 in December and 1,265 for the year, which is several or a few hundred more than what we had in 2019. And if you look on the page 2, these are some things that we realized that we had an uptick in certain areas, and we wanted to make sure that you had the ability to see where those increases were. Significantly, the one that stands out the most to me would be our DUIs that more than doubled. And in 2019, we made 33 DUI charges, and in 2020, we made 71. And that's a significant increase in that type of charge. The other ones are just narcotics related charges. There was an increase in a slight increase in the distribution level type charges. And a lot of those could just be based on how much they have on the person, not necessarily that they are selling them, but if they meet a weight threshold, then it moves it up to a distribution charge. And then the drug possession that is not marijuana, it's a couple less or a few less than it was in 2019. And the marijuana charges doubled what they were the year before. And then the gun charges stayed about the same in there. The second graph you'll see on that page will do with parking citations by violation. So you can kind of see the increase it was surprising to me, but in 2020, there were increases in several areas on there for parking citations issued for the different types of violations. The third page you have is, I should have put a title on it because it hit me when I was looking at it a minute ago that you just see this random map with colors on it and have no idea what it represents. What this is an analytical map for the island of incidents reported for 2019. The blue area that you see are areas that have the least amount of incident reports. The dark, or the closer it gets to red is the area that has the most incident reports documented. And then yellow would be a little bit less than that, moving out to blue. Are there any questions? I covered a lot of.
No, much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to miscellaneous business, I don't believe we have any agenda items there that I'm aware of. None, Desiree? So the only item remaining is the next meeting date, 3 p.m. Thursday, February 4th, 2021. I'm reading right off the agenda that says 2020. We are not doing 2020 all over again.
No, I'm
Please.
sorry. We should have caught that.
Yeah, I just did just now, by the way. So everybody good with that? And we'll keep this time as a standing time?
Yep.
Okay, with that, the only item left is adjournment. Do I hear a motion to it?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor?
Off record at 3:28.